after the first night and all the harassment and the taking of my fruit cocktail multiple times, I went into a real heavy American Me style prison workout. So I think that's really what it was.
Happened in the 90s.
I'm back, Steve. They let
He's
me out
fresh
of
out
the
of jail.
bogey.
Man, we got to set a party for Matt.
I'm
It's
out.
backwards. Free Matt now. It's Matt free.
I'm telling you, Steve. Let me just word to the wise. Don't write blank checks to little kids, okay?
That's what it was.
I got in a rush. I ran over this kid's bike. Bada bing, bada boom. I had a lot of shit to do. I write this kid a blank check. A couple weeks later, I'm up to my neck in lawsuits because this kid's buying shit. I'm $1 million in the hole. So I'm out.
That's,
And I'm lucky to be out. But boy, is my ass it's tired, Steve. Let
it's
me just
sore.
put it like that. Yep. It was
Yeah.
tough. That kid really jammed me up in a lot of ways, so
You look younger for some reason, man. I thought
do
jail
I?
aged you. Yeah, like somehow you did the Benjamin Button.
Well, after the first night and all the harassment and the taking of my fruit cocktail multiple times, I went into a real heavy American Me style prison workout. So I think that's really what it was.
All right.
I'm in a gang now, but I wasn't there that long, and I gave him a fake name, so I think I'm good. But I appreciate that. So I guess I'm looking all right. I guess jail treated me pretty well in that regard.
Yeah, man, you must have a good lawyer. And I mean, so that whole thing about you like overfeeding a cop's horse, that didn't like they just swept that under the rug.
I kind of threw myself on the mercy of the court at that point, and I was like, "Look, man, I didn't know horses couldn't eat Funyuns and pizza and popcorn and chocolate. I didn't know that. I didn't have a carrot on me. I didn't have any peanut butter on me, like for Mr. Ed type shit. So I threw him a couple of M&Ms, and the horse dropped dead. So it is what it is, Steve. A lot of missteps. So just watch yourself. I'm not a good traveler, and apparently, I'm in the hole about a cool $1 million too. So we really got to get this. We got to get this thing taken off because that kid took me to court, Steve.
Yeah. TikTokers, because you have to be difficult. Did you hear that? Let's put some money on his lawyer fees.
Yeah.
Matt is fresh out. He did his time. He didn't rat on anybody.
Tone Loc needs to get out too. He's in jail. I couldn't get him out, Steve. Tone Loc, I was hanging out with him. He's down. So let's
he's
get
he's on his own, man. Yeah, we just focus on Matt right now. He's got those wild thing residuals, and what was the was it the bear, Sea Bear and Jamal or some shit?
What the fuck?
Wasn't he in that cartoon on Fox back in the day? Sea Bear, it was,
Yep,
Sea Bear and Jamal. He was he was a little teddy bear talking like Tone Loc. Yeah, fluff me right quick before I go to bed.
But Steve, while I was in jail, you'll appreciate just a little knowledge. I think you probably know this as somebody who loves Cleveland teams and Cleveland athletes. Do you remember Kenny Lofton?
Oh, I know Kenny Lofton. Yes.
Yes. So Kenny Lofton, great baseball player, great Cleveland athlete, alum, whatever, what have you. Did you know he could have gone pro in basketball? He was a 2-sport athlete in college. I had no idea about that.
I did know that. There's a couple like that. Dave Winfield, he actually got drafted back when NBA, they had like 17 rounds and shit. And then the same thing with the guy for the Padres, RIP to Tony Gwynn, man. He was actually drafted by the Padres and the Clippers, man. He was
thick ass Tony Gwynn could have played basketball like tractor trailer, Steve.
Well, this was in his early days. He wasn't always like that, man.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
that's from years of like doing all of that snuff.
Damn, snuff has calories? I didn't know that. Damn.
I think being a baseball player adds calories, man. Especially when you're one of the infield guys. You're just sitting at that plate. You're not really getting cardio. You're just getting big. Eating like
there's something. Also 90s baseball players. I watch a podcast that this a comedian does, and the end of it, he has like old baseball cards that he just gives out to his guests, and they unwrap them and just kind of like rip on them or talk about the athletes. I mean, we've talked about this. 90s pro baseball players, there was a significant portion of them that just looked like they also had a job at like Jiffy Lube, or they just had like that adult like teacher vibe with the mustache. Whereas
Yeah.
now they look like
Actual
Terminator
athlete?
dudes and actual athletes. Back in the day, they kind of looked like they could also, be somebody's dad that helped coach your little league team.
Yeah. Like,
So
where's his colostomy bag? Oh, that's the first baseman?
right, yeah, he has to go get some physical therapy after this. But yeah, I don't know what the must have been something in the water. Maybe it's just a look. Maybe if they could have just like gotten the looks that we had now, they'd look a little bit younger. But I don't think so, Steve. There's just a lot of old ass looking people back in the day.
I feel like people they just look older back in the day. Like when I look at my parents' yearbooks, like these look like 17-year-olds who fought in war. Then I look at my yearbook, it's like, oh yeah, we actually look 16, 17. I don't know.
Yeah. We didn't have a lot of responsibilities. I feel like people older than us had like actual shit that they had to deal with more so. Like some people, especially way back in the day, they actually went through depressions and stuff like that. Us, we just had to deal with depression. So we were a little bit younger for a little longer, maybe. But I don't know. I'm not a scientist. So
We were wusses, just say it, Matt.
we were, Steve.
And they give us medications for our wussiness. Did you know that June 27th is Helen Keller Day?
Really? She gets a.
Yeah,
Oh, hey. What's her movie called? The one that made us watch in school?
separate something pieces, isn't
I
it?
don't know. I just remember the water stuff. Water, water. The lady that was trying to teach her. You remember, Steve. Come on. We're not that old.
Well, I remember watching it, and I also remember not watching it. But shout out to Helen Keller, and this is to acknowledge the deaf and blind people. We see you. Some of us, some of you can't see us, but we acknowledge you.
Yes. We unironically acknowledge you. And
Yeah,
I didn't know she got a whole day, though. It's pretty awesome. You got to be pretty fucking awesome to have just a whole day to yourself. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
So shout out to Helen Keller on Helen Keller Day. Before we kick this off, Matt, I got a really bad dad joke. So why did the gynecologist get bullied at the hospital?
Why, Steve?
Because he's a pussy ass doctor. So, hey, boys and girls, this is Steve G and Mad G with Happened in the 90s, a show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So, get out your Pokemon plush toys and your Pocahontas posters. Because I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call her. Wish I had a hat with a rat and a hat. I can never get that part right. I wish.
Did Skee-Lo? Well, we're gonna get into it. I don't want to go too deep into it. I love that song though. That was a roller rink classic, Steve. That was just a young kid party classic.
Yeah.
Even the old people could get down to a little Skee-Lo.
You could throw that into the Ohio Skate rotation. I think that was played as well as the All for One. What was the song we were doing the other day? I can love you like that,
Yep.
make you my world, show you if you are
Hell yeah.
mine. Well, today, my friend, we're talking all things June 27th in the 90s. Starting off in 1990, Days of Thunder premieres in theaters. A young hotshot stock car driver gets his chance to compete at the top level. Directed by Tony Scott, starring Tom Cruise, Robert Duvall, Randy Quaid, Nicole Kidman, Carrie Ellis, and John C. Riley. Didn't know he went this far back.
Yeah, John C. I didn't remember. I remember Princess Diary was in there for sure. But Tony Scott and Tom Cruise, man. It's a good combination back in the 90s, Steve. They were really
That's Mission
killing it.
Impossible, right?
Well, I mean, I think Tony
Nope.
Scott. I mean, I think he did. Didn't he do Top Gun? I mean, that was '80s, obviously, but I think he did Top
What?
Gun.
That wasn't Bruckheimer, or was
Maybe it was.
Bruckheimer the producer?
That's it. Yep. I think it was this whole team, but they figured something out
Yeah.
because you throw Tom Cruise in a vehicle, it's magic, Steve. In this case, NASCAR's.
Just keep them off your couch. And this was my first time watching it, man. It's worth watching once because I've heard about it. This is Tom Cruise, in my opinion, like before he got like annoying to the masses, to the public. It's got a young Nicole Kidman. I don't know if this is how they met, but you know, shout out to Nicole Kidman. I likes me some Nicole Kidman from the Batman Forevers and whatnot.
It's got Duvall in it too, right? Yeah, it's Duvall.
It's Duvall because he's the pit crew manager that came out of retirement, and Randy Quaid he's like the multi-millionaire who's putting the funds behind these stock cars, and this is a change of pace for Randy Quaid because he's actually a serious character.
Yeah. He's also kind of a prick because he's a rich dude. And I think Michael Rucker is the sort of old dog driver that I think Tom Cruise is competing with
He
on
is,
this team. And then they sort of become bros, I think, by the end of it.
yeah. They find some peace, some middle ground.
But Tom Cruise, I feel like Talladega Nights sort of played heavily off this movie. And at
Oh
one
yeah,
point, Tom Cruise, I think it's in an accident with Michael Rucker, but I might have made that up. But it's so significant that he's sort of in his head. And Nicole Kidman, if I'm not mistaken, is his psychologist. And she's sort of working with him to get through this. And also, they get into a little thingy thing, and she works with him in other ways too, Steve, without getting
oh,
too explicit for the
yeah.
tick.
She works that thing and operates on that thing, and this is actually loosely based on Tim Richmond. He was the homosexual race car driver that they actually did a 30 for 30 on, and I think he passed away from HIV, from AIDS. Um,
Didn't
but yeah,
realize that.
yeah. I mean, they kept some of that part. It's loosely based. Yeah, they didn't. Obviously Nicole Kidman was his love interest. It wasn't Robert Duvall, but
That would have been a more interesting movie, I feel like, Steve. He gets off, they start arguing about the racing and all, like, you're pushing too hard, kid. And then they just embrace softly. I'd love that. I love
is
that
this
for
pushing
cinema.
too hard now in the next one?
Oh, Robert.
Yeah.
But this was also, I feel like, a ploy to get the guys to go to a romantic movie, and it's got like action. It's a Tony Scott movie, but there's a lot of stuff for the ladies to love in this. Obviously, Tom Cruise being the main thing, but um, I just remember my sister loving this movie a lot, probably for that reason. And
Yeah.
I don't like racing, and I never really have. So, to all the NASCAR fans, I'm not saying it sucks. I just don't get it. So, for me, this movie doesn't really push any buttons in that regard. But I agree with you that this is before Tom Cruise got and sort of started tripping over himself and
Yeah.
becoming like a parody of an actual person. And it shows how he can act. I mean, he's very emotional in this. Goes through a lot, and he's pretty fucking intense. So, I gotta give it to. It's not a bad movie because of him. It's really not a bad movie at all. It's just not my cup of tea.
Turn left again, Gerald. Turn left. Somebody who probably didn't watch this in 1990 is probably David Stern and Derek Coleman, because Derek Coleman was the first pick in the 1990 NBA draft.
What was his nickname, Steve? Did he have a nickname?
DC.
Okay, well, I thought it was
Yeah.
something else. But Derek Coleman, that's a famous name. I remember having him on a lot of basketball cards back in the day. What is, because you have a lot of knowledge of basketball. What's his
Okay.
legacy in basketball? Is he like a success? He's not a flop.
I wouldn't say he's a complete flop because he did have some all-star years. He had one all-star year. He was named to the all-rookie team that year. He was NBA all-third team a couple years. And I think he got a gold medal in the 94. Well, I don't know what they call it in 94 because it's 92 and 96. That's the actual Olympics. But whatever they did in 94 when he was on that team, they won the gold in that. His number is retired, but I think the thing that we can't overlook is the person picked right behind him was the glove, Gary Payton. So
GP.
it's like the Nets, you could have had that, and the Sonics could have had Derek Coleman.
Hmm.
Overall, it wasn't the greatest draft. I mean, outside of Gary Payton, you had Tyrone Hill, who was an all-star. You had Jason Williams, the accidental shooter. At the 29th pick, the Chicago Bulls picked Tony Kukoc from Yugoslavia in the second round.
Kukoc, dude. Yeah, damn. There's a lot of names there that I would probably put above Derek Coleman after
Yeah.
the fact. Hell yeah.
Dennis Scott, Kendall Gill from My Brother and Me fame, as well as the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, Derek Coleman was never on My Brother and Me, Steve. So right away, you're
Yeah.
out.
There you go, Derek Coleman. But 1992, June 27th, the Red Shoe Diaries debuts on Showtime. And man, this is one of those programs where are the folks put away yet for the night?
Yeah, that's the only reason you're watching this. It was like
Only
Tales from the Crypt with smut.
with
Every episode was a different story, a different Red Shoe Diary entry, Steve.
yeah, I mean, but just like Tales from the Crypt, they would have these B grade actors, so I think that makes it equally scary. Everybody's just so ornery and ready.
Yeah, I
Like
think this was like sort. I'm looking at the. So I'm not going to say I think because I'm looking at the wiki on this, but this was sort of a collab between Showtime and Playboy TV, Steve. If you didn't know that,
I didn't.
and there's a guy who directed these, who I think is kind of this is his thing, like this erotic cinema because it's not porno, Steve. It's not softcore porno. This is erotic television or erotic entertainment. And the guy's name is Zalman King. And
Zalman,
I
yeah,
think if you search that, he's usually like named like in a something something in a Zalman King production or Zalman King presents, and it's always something like, you know,
the Wild Orchid Orchard,
yeah. Soft dew on a morning grass or some, something that's erotic, Steve. So
Wind on Water.
in that regard, I think he succeeded. I think this show, I'm looking at the if the wiki's correct, it had 66 episodes. So that's
Yeah,
a lot of smut.
5 seasons, man. And I mean, this might be the only reason to have Showtime back in the day because I think HBO was getting all the glory for all the originals and for the made for TV movies.
I also don't think HBO did not do this as much. They might have had a Real Sex or like a
They
Taxi
had
Cab
real sex
Confessions, but that
later. Yeah.
wasn't this. This is more of like a skin. This is less Skinamaxy, but it's that same thing where it's like it's straight up porno without showing it, basically.
On that same level. In
Yeah,
1995, though, Leprechaun 3 is direct to video. An evil leprechaun finds himself in Las Vegas, where he proceeds to cause mischief by killing people, granting twisted wishes, and infecting a young man with his green blood. Directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, starring Warwick Davis, John Gattens, Marcelo Tuber, Caroline Williams, John DeMita, and Michael Callan.
I love that Warwick Davis. Um, he's one of honestly, dude. If you think about it, he's one of the more successful just actors in general because he's been doing it since the '70s almost. Fuck being a dwarf,
Yeah,
but anything that requires somebody of a small stature, he's usually the guy, even if there's like a lot of significant makeup, and he kills this. He is the Leprechaun series as a whole. It's not a horror to me. It's more of a comedy series than anything, but he's always hilarious in it.
here. That's all I live for. I only come to the Leprechaun series for the punchlines. What is he going to say? He's like up there with Freddy Krueger as far as being like witty, and even though you're a killer, you still have charisma. He's one of the most charismatic of the horror meanies.
Yeah, and it's very simple. He's out. He wants to get his gold back, and he's running around creating mischief in Vegas, which already a bunch of crazy shit's going on. I've been to Vegas a couple times. I've seen a one-armed prostitute. I've seen many crazy things. If I saw something that looked like a real leprechaun running around, I wouldn't bat an eye. I'd be like, "Oh, crazy." Well, let's keep going here. But I don't remember details of this. I've seen it because I remember seeing the Leprechaun going around playing his little flute and doing weird shit in Vegas. But I support it, Steve, if for no other reason, just to give Warwick Davis another paycheck because the guy's a legend.
Man, he was involved with all that Star Wars stuff too, man. You talking about Big Bank.
And I mean, he was in that. Oh, fuck.
Willow,
Willow, he was in that. He's in
Harry,
like that.
Harry Potter.
Exactly. So I know there's many more things that he's been involved in. I just can't think of, but he's just been around since the freaking 70s. And there's literally, we're dwindling on the number of people that can even say that.
Yeah, and I mean, he is the premier guy for little people, I feel. Like
Totally, for sure. And that, like, now you just know who he is. It used to be they'd throw him in a suit or something. You just, unless you knew or like if you didn't know, you didn't know. But now that he's a straight up celebrity, so I think he's also was like he's still doing the Star Wars stuff. They have all those shows. I'm sure they give him some kind of a role at some point.
and if it wasn't for Leprechaun 3, we wouldn't get such greats as Leprechaun in Space in 96 or Leprechaun in the Hood in 2000. Like this basically like was uh, a test to see if this would even work. We're like, this is the first one that they didn't release in theaters. This was direct to video, and they sold 55,000 units. This was the highest selling direct to uh, video release of that year in '95. Man,
Well, if it gave us Leprechaun in the Hood, then it was worth every goddamn penny because that movie's cements it as comedic gold.
yes, thank you, Leprechaun 3. But somebody who probably didn't watch Leprechaun 3 in 1995 is probably Skee-Lo because he released his album, I Wish. I Wish.
I wish. I mean, I didn't really sympathize with the play and the song, Steve, but the beat's catchy. And I just was going to ask you this earlier. Did Skee-Lo have any? Is this truly a one-hit wonder? Because I don't remember any other Skee-Lo tracks.
I don't recall any other ones. He had two other releases from this album called Top of the Stairs and Superman. And, you know, if you give it a chance, Matt, the whole album is banging. The whole
Okay,
album.
I didn't
Like,
expect that. Okay,
I didn't expect it either because all I knew about him was I Wish, and I just wrote him off as a
I
one hit wonder.
wish.
And that's not fair to Skee-Lo. Skee-Lo. Damn. Two
Yeah,
different people.
Skee-Lo'd be damned. Skee-Lo,
Skee-Lo, yeah. But I
I
think you'd like
respect it
this.
though, but also just in favor, even if he was a one-hit wonder, fucking one hell of a one hit.
Yeah.
It's
And
some it's a legacy song. I mean, I think if you have like a '90s movie, this is a perfect song to put in there. Just like if you're doing a '70s movie, you put a bunch of credence in it and stuff like that. You know, it's synonymous.
he's a guy from Chicago, but the album it has a real G Funk influence, man. You hear some Isley Brothers samples, you hear some old like funk and soulful samples, man. And he's actually an MC, man. The dude is rhyming. It's not just like basic, like hey ho.
Yeah. I feel like the video kind of had like a West Coast vibe too. Just maybe it was just like the tone of like speaking sort of technically, it was just like the way it looked, like the tone and everything and the color of the video. But I love me some Skee-Lo. I'm gonna have to actually get now that you're saying the actual album's good. Fuck, I'm gonna
Yeah.
go download that immediately.
But 1997, June 27th, Face Off premieres. To foil a terrorist plot, FBI agent Sean Archer assumes the identity of the criminal Castor Troy, who murdered his son through facial transplant surgery. But the crook wakes up prematurely and vows revenge. Directed by John Woo, starring John Travolta, Nicolas Cage, Joan Allen, Gina Gershon, and Alessandro Nivola.
I watched this last night, Steve. This is a great movie. You can talk shit about it, and it's a weird premise. But John Woo, who was already a legendary director,
Yeah.
killed this.
This has
Absolutely killed it.
everything. This has everything you want from John Woo. The stuff that you expect, the doves, the scattered shooting scenes where everything just hits the fan, man. And they had
I forgot he has like the choreography of people shooting where they're almost like dancing. They're spinning around, doing crazy like
Yeah.
behind the back shit. But dude, Nicolas Cage in this movie. I mean, both him and John Travolta, but Nicolas Cage specifically in this movie. Mwah,
Yeah, and we
perfect.
just talked about Nick Cage and Travolta a couple weeks ago, man. Like, where do you place Nicolas Cage in your action stars? Is he top 5? Because I think we're in agreement that Arnold is the GOAT. Like, where is Nick Cage, man?
Well, you got to go Arnold. You got to go Stallone because those are the top two. I'm going Bruce Willis
So you're
after
going
that.
Planet Hollywood starting off.
I mean, you got to though. You
I'm a
absolutely
Jean
have
Claude
to.
guy. I'll
Remember, I
put
was you almost I you just let me keep going, Steve. Jean Claude's number 4. He's right
okay.
there too. And then it gets a little iffy. I don't because of when he started, and I just have to do this because I love him as an actor and think he needs more props. I would say Michael Jai White is better than most people technically. But if
Because
we're
he can really
talking
beat your ass.
exactly, and he looks like a badass. And in the '90s, he was Spawn. I mean, he had some pretty stellar shit going. He was in Universal Soldier in the
He's Mike
'90s.
Tyson.
Exactly. So honestly, I feel no hesitation in saying that. But if I can't use Michael Jai White, I would say Nicolas Cage over John Travolta for sure, for sure. And Nicolas Cage over a lot of other 90s action star people, I guess. But those people that we named at the top of the heap, they're cemented. You know, that maybe somebody would say Seagal in the 90s, but that guy's a joke. So,
Yeah,
you know,
who's gonna say that, man? Somebody with Alzheimer's. And something I found interesting, man, they had a couple different pairings that could have possibly happened that wasn't Nicolas Cage and Travolta. They were thinking about Michael Douglas with Harrison Ford, Bruce Willis and Alec Baldwin, Jean Claude and Steven Seagal, Denzel
oh,
Washington, Denzel Washington and Wesley Snipes, and Robert De Niro and Al Pacino.
Yeah.
okay. I mean, all of those I would love to see for various reasons, for sure. But this one, dude, they picked a good, maybe it was money that they couldn't get those other people, obviously, for whatever reason. But the ones that they got, it just works really well. Travolta plays, what's kind of crazy, because I was trying to explain this to Kendra because, we watched it last night and I had to talk her into it. But I was like, it's hard to explain because it's almost like magical because they get to play both characters as themselves. John Travolta gets to play this family guy, Archer. Then he gets to, when they do the face off thing, eventually he gets to play the villain for most of the movie and sort of play Archer, sort of, but with this like cool guy twist where he's like sort of a bad boy version of it, hiding the fact that he's this other guy.
Yeah.
So I think everyone kills this. It is again weird, but just a couple of things that stood out to me in this movie without going over the whole story and like bumbling over it. All of the gunfights, because it's John Woo. Everything, like you said, that he does is on steroids. The doves flying, we get that. They even throw in some seagulls just because they're bigger birds and it looks dope. Um, there's like multiple car chases. There's a damn boat chase, a plane and a helicopter chase. So like all the action set pieces, amazing. But then you get to Nicolas Cage and his portrayal of this psychotic. What's the guy's name, Steve? Castor Troy.
Pastor Troy, yeah.
Great name. Even that, badass. He sounds badass. This guy's got style. He's a cool villain. He's a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer. They put a lot of emotion into that where he tries to kill Travolta. He actually ends up killing his son by mistake. So there's all this bad blood. So there's even a good story in here. But like the thing I remember that I love that I saw again and it reminded me of it, they take off Nicolas Cage's face. And at that point in the movie, everyone thinks that he's dead. He's brain dead. He's just a vegetable. So he's just laying there. He comes to life. And for about 5 minutes in this movie is just walking around with no face, getting all like the people that did this to him in a room. So it's almost like that scene in the first Batman where Joker wakes up and he's all psycho. He's got like that vibe too. And I just think it's, there's obviously better movies, but this is why I like 90s action movies, because this is like a quality film with in an action movie that honestly, if you explained it to somebody, I'd be like, I'm out. It seems kind of stupid.
Yeah, you're better off just showing it to him, saying like, "Hey, this is considered one of the greatest action directors, and it has one of the greatest action stars, and another guy at his peak." And this is grace for John Travolta. I feel like it doesn't get any better than this for the man.
This
I
is as
never,
cool as he gets. Other than
yeah,
maybe you could say Swordfish, where they tried to make him like this sort of cool, badass, like spy type dude. This one, he's he keeps sort of that Tarantino cool effect because he
yeah.
gets to play that villain. He does a good job acting. He doesn't fuck this movie up.
Considering who you ask, some people might think his Grease days were better or his Saturday Night Fever day. I'm nah,
I mean, he made
not.
some bangers in the 70s. He made a movie called, he was a good actor. I mean, I don't like musicals, so all those movies are out, like Saturday Night Fever and stuff, not into it. But he made a movie called Blowout that's about it. Like, it's just kind of a thriller in the 70s. I think it's a De Palma movie.
Okay.
Fantastic. So he's done good things. And I mean, the guy has a huge career. So I'm not going to like take anything out, but it's just like, to me, Nicolas Cage shines in this movie. And he's really sort of, I feel like he gets more quality screen time than Travolta. Travolta's just sort of the straight man for most of this, you know?
It's
Even
fun to be the bad guy.
exactly. So I'm all about it. And I just think that I thought I was going to watch this and it was going to be like a Twister effect, but if you can suspend disbelief on how stupid the procedure is that they do on these people to like change their bodies and faces, like, because it's not just they take a face off and put it on somebody else's face, they change their whole body and the structure of it and stuff too.
Yeah, well, there was an actual guy who did that years later in 2012 named Richard Norris. I don't know if you remember the story. He accidentally let his gun off and blew his whole frontal off. They did an actual reconstructive surgery on his face, and it's not as smooth as the guys who were on Face Off. Man, maybe he should have got those doctors, but his name is Richard Norris, and it's obvious if even if you look at him today, something happened. Something that we overlooked. Danny Masterson is in this movie, and we get a little bit of foreshadowing as to who he really is as a person. Like this was the perfect role for him. That's why he nailed it.
That's what I'm saying. It's art imitating life, Steve. They smelled this immediately. They were like, okay, you're a creep.
Yeah.
Force yourself on this girl. Maybe they were like taping lines and they just caught this, but that's a great scene too. I always thought it was cool. Like, I do think it's kind of cool that in the movie, like when Travolta turns into when Castor Troy is Travolta's character now, and he's sort of in the house, it's like really sinister because he's like screwing his wife and fucking with his daughter and stuff, but you see like the humanity come out of him a little bit because the daughter has this like weird like sort of rape thing happen, and then he beats the shit out of the guy, and then he's like gives her a knife and tells her how to like hurt the dude and stuff, almost trying to be like a good dad. And it's very strange in the movie. It's bizarre, but I forgot to mention Danny Masterson, and I do want to mention in a positive light one of my favorite actresses of the 90s that I'm sure you saw in a great role. CCH Pounder's in this as like the big
She is
boss. And I love that.
CPH, Pound Town, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this great Chic Luch line. Felt like this was the perfect opportunity from the honorable locks. We done seen every John Woo flick, so act like the killer instead of some chick, bitch.
I love that.
Also in 1997, Hercules premieres in theaters. The son of Zeus and Hera is stripped of his immortality as an infant and must become a true hero in order to reclaim it. Directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, starring Tate Donovan, Danny DeVito, James Woods, Susan Egan, Jim Cummings, Keith David, and Bobcat Goldthwait.
I feel like if like in terms of great actors that they get as a casting in Disney movies, this is one of the top casts. You get DeVito in this and James Woods and stuff like that. It's good. I was checked out of Disney movies by this time, obviously. It was a little too old to be like really in on this, but
Yeah.
as an adult, I've watched this. It was a really fun movie.
Finally watched it, man. And I think I didn't give it a shot because compared to its 90s counterparts, it never got that kind of fanfare as the Beauty and the Beast, as the Aladdin, the Lion Kings. Maybe even the Pocahontas got more shine. And I was like, you know what? It's on the timeline. Let's check it out. And I gotta say, like, James Wood, his character in this is probably the most charismatic of the Disney villains. He's got a sense of wit about him. You know, like most Disney villains, they're just really black and white. I'm evil and I'm just here for destruction. I'm just here to be bad.
Yeah.
He actually has some funny things. It's like, okay, this is perfect for James Woods.
James Woods is a great scumbag, and that's kind of what is it?
Yeah.
Hades, isn't that his name? Yeah. So
Hades.
he's
Yeah.
great in this, and Danny DeVito's like a little his like underling, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like his little buddy, I guess. Man, his bro, his little bro, and he's trying to like wise him up, like, hey man, that girl that you got the hots for, like she's not feeling you like that, man. She's actually scheming. She's a scammer.
He's being
It's
a
like,
bro,
whatever.
bro.
She's got nice tits, man. Whatever, bro. You're just a hater because you're short and bald.
You
It's
ain't
like,
you
all
can't
right,
get her.
man. Yeah, you couldn't get her, so you just trying to throw some salt in my game. Well, all right, be my guest.
I'm telling you, you're gonna have your shit in the front yard in 5 months. I'm telling you.
But yeah, man, Hercules, man, it's pretty good. And this was actually his James Woods' favorite character, or one of his favorite characters, man. So much so that he signed on to do anything they asked him to do, even do the voice for the Kingdom Hearts series. It's
Oh
like,
wow.
yeah, he's all for it, man.
I love
But
that. Well, I mean, you named a bunch of Disney movies as like possible ones that were more popular. This is way better than those. I have Pocahontas specifically. I'd say a lot of '90s like not '90s, a lot of Disney movies that get more praise. It's not as good as this. I don't know why this movie didn't get as much notoriety.
Not as marketable, I guess. You know, I don't know. Like the little action figures and stuff, they don't really, you
Yeah,
know.
I could
I
see
think that,
that.
the business aspect of it. You think it's better than Lion King?
No, it's not better than Lion King. I think Lion King to me, that almost might be my number one Disney movie of all time, honestly.
Hands down. Yeah, man. In June 27, 1999, Arliss is airing season 4, episode 4, The Stories You Don't Hear About. I wish it was called The Shit You Don't Hear About. It's HBO. They could have gotten away with that. In Las Vegas, a fight Arliss is promoting is about to go awry due to a domestic dispute.
Yeah, and for the longest, I was like, "Am I watching the wrong episode of this show?" Because I didn't see domestic dispute happening in this whatsoever, Steve. Even though we're dealing with the boxing world here, Ivan Ortega, who we meet, who is one of Arliss's clients, very. They mention Oscar De La Hoya as his like future opponent. Very much Oscar De La Hoya vibe though. Very handsome dude. Very like clean cut dude, and he seems to be all about his I guess wife. I think it's his wife.
Bianca, yeah, and they're having a photo shoot, and Bianca's even in the photo shoot with him. I thought this was promo for the upcoming fight, and they're just straddling each other, taking those Polaroids and snapping and whatnot. And
Looks like a weird engagement photo like thing. It's not even like, what is this for? Just like the loving husband versus.
they always got to get in the mix, man. But speaking of Oscar, he's actually in the mix. He's in here, and they're asking him like, so like, whatever happened to you fighting Ivory? And he's like, look, man, we ain't ducking no fades over here. We ready. Let's just sign it up.
Yeah, and I mean that's money in the bank. But like everything with boxing, you gotta, I guess, earn it. So everyone's saying Ivan's got to fight someone else before he gets to De La Hoya. So they've lined up some French guy that I guess boxes. It's the one guy in France that they could make look like a boxer, Steve.
Tomat de Can. They didn't even have a French boxer in Mike Tyson's Punch Out because they know they're wusses.
I feel like they did, but I can't call it. So I'm gonna go with you on that.
They covered all of Europe.
But as we're seeing this unfold, Arliss he's constantly narrating these episodes, and we hear kind of his take on journalism, which is sort of still apropos to now, that it's new journalism and it's just like this news cycle where it's all about negative headlines. You know, whatever you can get the most clicks on, the most people to read, it's going to be something negative that has nothing to do with the actual thing, basically.
And man, the cameos once again. You got Jim Lampley in the mix. You got Don King, even Bob Arum, the famous boxing promoter. And if you stick around a week longer in Las Vegas, you get to see Dennis Rodman as Orphan Annie.
Yeah, I saw that fucking poster. That was so weird. Um, and I do like, speaking of cameos, you get to see that like the opening credits. And when you see all the cameos that they had in this show, period, it's crazy. HBO had a lot of pull, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, they're tied to Warner, so I think that might have something to do with it. Warner working with TNT, and that's instant access to the NBA players, and some of maybe even we'll get to him later. Some of the Atlanta players, based out
Oh,
here.
yeah,
Yeah,
hell yeah. Um, so we're stuck here in Vegas, and now this fight's happening with this French dude. Arliss is sort of chumming it up at the pre-fight stuff. He's talking to this journalist, and Ivan and his wife are talking too. And again, they have a great relationship. But Ivan's he's got his routines, Steve. He's a boxer, so isolates himself. Night before the fight, he's got to go to bed at 10 p.m. by himself, no sex, nothing till after the fight. And so he excuses himself. His wife's a little like, come on, it's only 10 p.m. And so he does what he does. And then when he leaves, I think she's talking to Rita, one of Arliss's like employees. And she's like, yeah, this guy won't even jam up. I can't even jack him off for a month leading up to this fight. It's crazy.
3 months.
That's even crazy. No wonder he's whooping the shit. I think even somebody says that. No wonder he's whooping that
Rita.
ass.
Yeah, Rita said that. And also, one of the side stories is that Arliss is trying to ink a deal with Mandalay Bay for $20 million. And one of the other guys that runs Ferrolo, is it Ferrulo Diamond Casino? He wants him to house the fight.
And they're buddies. Tony and him, they go way back apparently, because Tony's like, come on, we have a past. Let's have a future here, bud. Let's talk numbers. And Arliss is like, yeah, you can't do what Mandalay Bay does. And I do like the scene where they're sort of having this conversation, because he's like, I can give you $10 million on just like a painting behind them.
Yeah.
And they just vandalize this painting, writing numbers of this fight total and stuff. But Arliss is a shrewd negotiator, and this Tony guy, he's really pressing to get this fight, Steve.
He wants to talk business.
But,
yeah. Like,
I love his mob. I love his mob guy too, because it looks like John Panette.
Right. Like, this is your heavy. Do better. And
he is heavy. That's his heavy.
Yeah. Hey yo. And there's no telling how inexpensive or expensive those paintings are, because like they're writing the numbers up there, and then there's a guy that replaces it as they're talking, and then he starts to write on again. It's like, no, let's see what we can do here. All right.
20 mil, but the money, I mean, there's a lot of zeros there, Steve. So I get why everybody wants in on this, because there's a lot of money to be had here. But I guess at this point, nothing's final right now. First of all, Ortega has to beat this French guy so that he doesn't humiliate himself and lose the opportunity. And then comes the sale and whatnot. So we cut to the casino. We're in a casino. And talking of cameos, we get another cameo from a lesser known, I remember him, Jamal Anderson, Steve. He's doing the Dirty Bird. He even does it. He even does the Dirty Bird. Former Atlanta Falcons running back star Jamal Anderson. He's in here. He's in the mix. And he's hanging out with Kirby's. I don't know what this guy does. I guess it's his right-hand man, Kirby. And yeah, Kirby's and he has a bad gambling addiction because he just excuses himself. He goes to the tables. He's feeling lucky, Steve. He's hitting the tables hard. He's doing pretty well.
He's cleaning up.
Yeah, I mean, doing fantastic. But then this monk shows up, and I love this. The betting to betting, Steve.
The betting to betting.
and there's like a hush that comes over the crowd, and Kirby's like, "What's going on here?" And the Jamal Anderson's like, "Man, that's the betting to bet, man. You gotta go." And Kirby's like, "I'm good, dude. Look at this
I'm
stack. Let's go."
I'm betting the betting to betting is about to be beaten.
How say that 3 times fast? So Kirby goes up against this guy, and do we find that out now? Like, does he beat him?
Well, they
No.
cut back to Arliss and Ferrulo talking, and that's when the guy behind them replaces the painting, and then like they start writing over that.
Okay.
So that was real quick, and then they cut back to Kirby, and he beats the betting to betting, and he tells them like the betting to betting is going to bed. Well, don't let the bed bugs bite. I love alliteration.
Kirby's throwing it all, and he's running away with some money too. So this he's winning. He's beating Vegas right now. He's beating some monks. So even God can't help these people out. And so now we're cutting around to the morning of the fight. Arliss is running around frantic. Everyone wants a piece of him. It's just like chaos. There's a lot of moving pieces happening. His journalist buddy, who I think his name is Buddy, is just constantly hounding him to get some kind of an interview. So he's in the mix too. Just remember Buddy, because he's going to come in big later. And I think Ivan's like comes
Ivory.
to the no, his name's Ivan, but his nickname's Ivory. His actual
That's what
name,
it is.
yeah.
I got you.
So they're in this hotel room. Ivan comes in. He's looking for his wife because he decided it doesn't matter. I just want to see my wife. But turns out, Steve, Ivan's wife is in a bedroom here, and she's not alone, bud.
Yeah.
She's not alone.
And Kirby and the crew, they basically hype him up. It's like, man, you're about to fight Tamat Decan. You got the goods. They kept saying that. You got the goods. You got the goods. Hey, but you think he should be doing that? Don't worry. He's got the goods. So he brings it all him and his goods all the way up to the hotel room. And Rita, she tries to run an interference because she opens the door and she stands in front of it like, hey, what about tradition? And I think somebody chimes in again, like, he's got the goods.
Okay, but still, and she's like, hey, Bianca, your husband's here. So she tries to get that warning out. We see somebody leave, and just so everyone knows, because we didn't really cover this, part of the promotion was that they had like a Rat Pack group of impersonators at this like party. Turns out Ortega's wife had a little affair with one of them.
Yeah.
He had a glass eye, hint, hint. So the room has no man in it now. So Ivan it's like, what's going on here? She's sort of disheveled. He looks down, condom wrappers, Steve. I mean, God damn it. He goes into a rage, and I think he just straight up backhands his wife or gives her like a Jean-Claude, doesn't he?
It was inadvertent because he sees that she's in her robe and everything. He's going through it in his head, and she's like, "But I can explain." And then he just raises his hand. She was standing behind him, and in that process, she gets swacked. And then she runs out the room. Rita sees the eyeball. There's an eyeball on the floor, so immediately she's thinking that Ivan knocked his wife's eye out, and that's the narrative that she's just running with for now.
There's an eyeball on the fucking floor. So now we go to the locker room, Steve, because this fight still has to happen. This is a day of the fight, Steve. Buddy's waiting on his interview. He wants an interview. Arliss shoos him away yet again, so no interview.
But
And
Kirby comes in. Before you get to that, Kirby comes in and he tells him like, man, you won't believe what Ivory just did. And the journalist says, well, what did he do? Then Kirby rethinks and like, oh, damn it. Come on, man. Tell me, what did he do?
He had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay, fuck. I gotta go.
Yeah.
So now Ivan, who's actually a good dude, he starts melting down because he's now hit his wife. He's messed up and he feels terrible. And this is not the mentality that a cold-blooded killer boxer wants to be going into a fight with, Steve. So it's looking like maybe this French guy might stand a chance.
Man, wonder what his intro music was. He probably switched it from Bring the Pain to like I swear that the sun and the stars. Because he's torn. He's like a jilted R&B singer. I'm talking about unbuttoned shirt, waiting outside the window with it when it's raining on your head.
Yeah, I mean he's in tears. I mean, literally sobbing. His trainer's like, "Yo, man, what in the hell happened here?" And Arliss is having a meltdown now because it's now like this other opportunity with De La Hoya is going to go down the toilet if this dude loses. So he goes out to like take a breath in the hallway just in time to see the French guy like, these Americans. And he actually like punches a dude out in the hallway. I don't
Yeah,
even remember why.
one of the security guys, because he's just pumped up. He's turned up.
Well, he gives that guy a 1-2. So now Arliss is like, oh gee, because his guy's sobbing. His guy's about to lose it all to go say sorry to his wife. So then to add even more like gasoline to his stress fire, that Tony guy who's all about like the casino shows up. And so he's like in the midst of trying to figure out like a solution here. And he's like basically trying to like figure out a way that they can just delay this fight. They got to figure out some miracle that can happen where Ivan doesn't have to fight right now.
And Kirby, we forgot about this. He made a side bet with the betting to betting. He put all of his money on Ivan at first.
Well, no, what happened was first he wanted to go to the actual casino and start like to put his money on the Frenchman. And they're like, betting's closed, sir. So he has a mini panic attack, sees the bet in Tibetan, is like, yo, dude, I'm going to give you 50 large. I'm betting on the frog. He calls him the frog too, which I thought was hilarious. He throws in a French racial or a French slur is what I think it is. But he's like, yeah, I think so. But he's like, look, 50 large on the French guy straight up. And the bet Tibetan knows, I mean, he's a bet in Tibetan, Steve. So he's all about that action.
Yeah. And that's where the bet placed. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So now Kirby he's being a little scumbag still. He thinks he's going to get over on this monk again. He's putting his good money on this sure thing, but Arliss, he's working his magic. There's a reason he gets the big bucks, Steve. And we see that.
Yeah. Because right before anyone lands a punch, I don't think, man, the lights just shut off.
Yeah. Fatty Arbuckle goes and takes care of business at the Nevada Electric Company, and they shut off the electricity for the whole strip, Steve. The whole strip.
Yeah.
So that guy must have some mob connects because that's a tall order. So Arliss, he earned his money today. Fight gets postponed. But unfortunately for Kirby, he's trying to get out of this bet now because he's like, this bet was for the fight tonight. And the bet to Ben's like, a bet's a bet, dude. I'll see you tomorrow at the fight. We'll see what's up. Because now he's got money on the bet to Ben's betting on Ortega. So now that everyone's hope is Ortega's just going to recoup. Tomorrow's going to be a better day. So after the thing gets postponed, first cut to Ivan and his wife. And he makes an apology for the sucker punch. And then it just gets real passionate, Steve. It gets real Red Shoe Diaries in that hotel room.
Yeah, because at first Rita, she was hesitant to even let him in. And then like she relents because he's like, look, this is my wife, and like I just want to make it good with her. So he goes in there, and when Rita turns around, she notices that Bianca has both of her eyes. So now she's playing Inspector Gadget. Dun 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 dun. Like,
hey, babe.
Yeah.
Did you fuck Dennis Miller? Hey, babe.
And now cut back to Arliss and Anthony. They're like, thanks to Thomas Edison who gave us light. And thanks Anthony Ferrulo who took it away.
I mean, Anthony Ferrulo too. I mean, this guy probably got a couple of bodies buried because he got the job done. So I'd be like, dude, you're getting the fight now. This is fantastic.
I like Anthony.
Yeah,
he's an OG. He's one of them Yeah.
He definitely would have been hanging out with like De Niro in Casino days.
For
He would
sure.
have been in the mix there. But then we find out Kirby's kind of acting like solemn. And it's not really because of the bet, because they start talking to him and he's like, look, I told Buddy about the whole wife beating thing, and I'm pretty sure he's going to write a story about it. So now Arliss has to put out yet another fire. He goes to find Buddy. Buddy's finishing up his story. Arliss takes the laptop or whatever right out in front of him. He's like, dude, you can't publish this. And then Buddy gets into like this speech about what journalism's become, basically saying what I said at the beginning, and that this is his ticket back to being relevant. He's like, nobody wants to hear from an old man. So this is the story that's going to get me back to making the big bucks. So unless you got something else, I'm going to publish a story. And then Arliss, he's a fixer, Steve. He's Winston the Wolf, bro.
Get shit done.
He figures it out. And he makes a deal. He's like, look, I got something for you. And it's way bigger than this. So just hold off on the story. Hit delete on that. And just give me a couple of minutes. I'm going to have a talk. So 2 weeks, we cut to 2 weeks later, which is actually the date of the rescheduled fight. 2 weeks was plenty of time for Ivan to feel better, because within, I think, 5 seconds, Frenchman's dead on the canvas, Steve.
He's dead at the bell.
Mike Tyson would blush at this. He'd give you props. So Arliss succeeded in every way. His buddy Anthony was a bro, helped him out on the slip slide with the little mob connect. And we also see that Arliss helped his buddy out, because he's doing the fight announcing for HBO.
Sitting next to Jim Lampley. He took Al Bernstein's spot. And, now cut back to Rita. She's there with the Rat Pack and the Team Move Sammy Davis Jr. throws his eyeball into his little cocktail. It's like, yeah, I think this is yours.
Thanks, babe.
Hey, babe.
That's weird, though. I gotta say, to Ivan's wife, all of the Rat Pack deserve getting fucked, but fucking the Sammy Davis Jr. one, just the vibe of that's weird, because he's like, yeah, babe, put your leg up, babe. It just seems like it'd be weird sex, but then again, fuck it. Give it to him.
Serious character acting. Like you really found a black guy who is missing an eye too. Like,
and she banged him so hard his eye fell out, Steve. And that's fantastic. It popped right out.
Yeah, she was in hot. She was in hot. She was in heat for 3 months, man.
Yeah.
And in Al Bernstein in the closing credits, we see that he's actually covering the ping pong matches on ESPN 7.
To the streets with you, Al Bernstein. Buddy's taking your spot. He doesn't really have a lot of material though, Steve, because he reuses one of his jokes on air. So we already know he's not going to be there long.
It's like saying Cookie Monster's the toughest Muppet. That is a good one though.
I mean, it's good, but he exhausted it on the first fight, Steve. I mean, he got 1 second in and it's gone. So hopefully he's developing material.
Yeah, back to the notepad with you. But also in '99, Parenthood is airing season 5, episode 6. Thanks a lot, MW, for the misinformation. Mommy Dearest. TK's mother claims that she is drug-free and wants her boy back, baby.
I know how to be a mom. Another TK-centric episode. See, I feel like they really relied on TK as like a storytelling device.
Hey, man. Well, was the guy from Brady Bunch that we covered, the little cousin Oliver?
Yeah.
Little cousin Oliver syndrome, man. We got to find a new pony to groom and ride on to the sunset.
Can I ask? No, I'm not. I think it was just a mistake in my note taking, but this was another, I thought, pretty decent episode of this show. And I gotta say, the Kelly character that we get now, because I'm new to this.
Yeah,
I forgot about this actor, and Kelly as a character is hilarious. I love it.
He's always this. I think his real name is Kelly, like Kelly Perrine, because he was in Drew Carey's show in the early seasons. And I just remember the scene where like they're testing for drugs at the office, and he was like, definitely cocaine.
He's always yeah,
know,
he's kind of like nerdy but hilarious. He's got jokes, Steve. This guy's hilarious. But we start the episode, and Robert, as always, just trying to get a little Jerry attention, Steve. He needs a
mm,
little love and affection, and she's
like
busy.
me some Jerry.
She's sexy. She's definitely a MILF.
Jerry.
Um, but she's busy, Steve. And then Kelly comes in, and he's running from some freak, Steve. He's got a freak on the leash, but he wants to just get away, and he's stressing out a little bit.
Got a stalker named Tracy. Spelled with an I.
And
That's
she's
the first.
big, Steve. She's big. She might whoop his ass.
Yeah. Little Lisa Leslie. Yeah.
And then we cut to, I think Jerry works at like a women's like center or something.
Yeah, she's a counselor. And the lady, she sits down with Jerry and she says she wants to get her child back. She fell on hard times and now she's good. With little of a backstory. She just says, like, hey, I'm TK's mother. After those two short sentences, and then like instantly, like, I know exactly who you are. Apparently, I did my research because I'm sitting down with the person who has custody of my child. So hi, when can I get him back?
Yeah, the person that they paint at the end of this, I find it hard to believe that she could do enough digging to figure that out. But she did, Steve. She's there. And Jerry's a little caught off guard. You can tell. She's like, oh shit. So that's boiling now. That's on a simmer. Cut back. Kelly's working on this breakup speech because he's got a girl to break up with, and he's going over it. And it sounds pretty well put together. But then we sort of pull out, and he's actually just sort of doing this. He's having the kids listen to him so he can get some feedback because that's all the audience he has, Steve.
But yeah, when we get to the actual breakup, though, it runs smooth. It's never easy, but as smooth as possible. And before she leaves, she was like, "You had everything in there, but that Rolex. Give it back to me." It's like she was making my
Greedy,
wrist.
greedy ass. I mean, I'll say Tracy comes in though. I don't know about exactly like being the hottest chick, but she's like apparently rented some sort of costume, and it's like by the hour. So she had some pretty cool plans for Kelly. So I
Yeah,
respect that part of it. I like that.
I like
But
Tracy.
Tracy's a freak. But she gets her little Rolex back, which damn, you just giving out Rolexes. That's pretty awesome too, Kelly. That's another reason to stay. But he kicks her to the curb, and as she leaves, she blows. I mean, straight up blows some shit into his face and puts a voodoo curse on him, Steve.
Creates this ruse like she's fake crying. She's turned around and she just and as he's trying to like approach her and console her, she turns around and just great Muda just throws some like voodoo powder into his face.
There's kids here.
She put a as Red Fox said on Harlem Night, she put a root on that boy. She put a root on him.
And so Kelly's freaked the fuck out now. And I got to be honest, somebody just throws a curse at you just out of nowhere. I'd be kind of freaked out too. Like it would stick with me for a second. So Kelly finds Robert, and he's like, dude, like this woman put a curse on me. And Robert's like, dude, there's no such thing as voodoo. It's just a bunch of bullshit. Kelly, and Kelly immediately takes like a fridge door to the face. So bad stuff starts happening to him. And this mantra of his throughout this episode now, where he's just like, it's the voodoo. We hear that a lot. So now Kelly's pretty sure he's got a voodoo curse on him. And so either he's going to die or maybe he's going to start losing significant weight quickly, no matter what. I don't know.
Or his head shrinks.
Yeah, which we do get to see that too, actually. I think it's coming up pretty soon where Robert has one of his daydreams, and we basically see like a Beetlejuice thing with Kelly where his head just starts shrinking. Like, what you looking at, man?
And then in the next scene, Jerry, like TK and Robert are sitting watching the game or whatever, and Jerry comes in and has TK run to the store to, get something. And, that buys her time to tell Robert, hey, I just talked to TK's mom, and she's like trying to get back into the picture. Well, have you told TK yet? Like, no, she told me not to tell him. Like, it's supposed to be a surprise.
I That doesn't seem great. But so now everyone knows about this except TK. Cut to a little bit later, Kelly comes into the house with some heat. He's getting chased by a pack of wild dogs, Steve, ravenous.
Yeah. Or
And
just poodles.
yeah, what's the kid's name?
Nicholas.
Yeah, Nicholas is like, man, those little poodles, man.
Man,
Everyone's
I got
playing Kelly, dude.
yeah. And then like this is the head shrinking scene where it's
Yeah.
like, man, before you know it, Robert, man, my head's gonna start shrinking. Your head might shrink. His daydreams are always hilarious. And this one is a quick one because it's just literally Kelly's head shrinking.
Fantastic, though. It's very Beetlejuice. It's very great. Um, and then we cut to, I think we're in the living room now, right? And TK's mom, what's her name?
On here,
I think it's like Lanisha or something.
it's something like that.
I'll get to. I wrote it down somewhere, but TK's mom and Jerry are having just more of a conversation and talking about one. You know, she wants to get on the straight and narrow, and they kind of are trying to wrap the conversation up. And she's like, "I just don't want him to see me," because they know. I think TK has a game. They're expecting him to be gone for a while, and she's like, "You know what? I don't want him to see me yet. So I'm gonna get going." But as she's getting ready to leave, TK walks in and is like, "Oh, hey, mom." Like very deadpan.
Why didn't you guys tell me that my mom was here or gonna be here? And he's like, well, we didn't have enough time to get you to be prepared to tell you. And but TK's being cool about it because essentially he's just happy to see his mother.
Yeah. And he even tells her that she's like, she goes into like the whole apology and does that and makes herself vulnerable. He's like, there's absolutely no need for this. Like, we don't have to look. What does he say? I'm not going to look back. So you don't have to look back either. It's very mature. It's very,
I'm not gonna hold it against you, basically.
yeah. And it's so TK is a very, for somebody that comes from such a fucked up background, seems like a great dude. So clearly Robert's doing a lot of good, Steve.
You only get one mom, man. And you know that as they're having their one-on-one sesh, everything is smooth, everything is going cool. And then Kelly, we cut to the next scene, and Kelly, he's wearing a dashiki, he's wearing raw fish around his neck, and he even has a Black Magic for Dummies book. Um, like I think this is a good expose of his physical comedy because he's already like a nerdy, quirky guy, but like as he's taking this potion that's supposed to heal him, he goes through this whole exorcism, and it's very Jim Carrey.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It would have Jim Carrey blushing, man.
Well, even they get because the kids are watching this whole thing as he's doing it. And I think the potion is actually him eating some kind of like gross ass chicken foot thing that he made with like a bunch of other stuff. But you can see like the kid that plays Nick, like everyone's like, yeah, because he takes a bite of it. So there's a reaction to that. And then he's just like getting the Holy Ghost for about a minute, just like, you know who it reminds me of? You remember when like Martin would do some of this shit? It's very like that kind of physical comedy. It's great.
There we go.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Or on some Dragonfly Jones type ish.
Exactly.
Man.
And he's like, oh, it's when remember when Martin's mom used to freak out, like when they killed her bird and stuff, like, ah! It's that. But he's trying to get rid of this voodoo. He takes it, he does all the crazy stuff. And he starts coming to, and he's like, you know what? I actually think the curse is over. But then I think like he takes another door to the face, and we get another. It's the voodoo.
It's the voodoo.
So then we cut, and Jerry, being the consummate mother that she is, they're talking about this, and she's telling Robert, she's like, look, I don't know if this whole thing, like Jerry or TK being with having a relationship with his mom is cool. Because I've been talking to some of these ladies at the Women's Center, and I'm not hearing a lot of good things. So
she's missed some of her counseling sessions, and you know who are some of these old friends? We need to know them, Robert. Maybe these are the people that got her on that path in the first place. And Robert's trying to be like, you know, an understanding dad and husband, and you know, just trying to find some middle ground for everybody. He's just like, you know what? I think you're just reading too much into this.
Yeah, and you're worried. Like you have a lot of stake in this game because we love TK so much, but it's his mom. So they're like, let's just see what happens. But then to add fuel to the fire, not TK comes in and he delivers a bombshell. Given what they've just been talking about, where they're just worried about him having his mother back in her life or back in
Yeah.
his life. But TK comes in and is like, hey guys, great news. Mom and I talked. I'm going to move back in with her. So now they're like, oh shit, like that's a lot more pressure because we don't know what this lady's like. And now you're going to be moving back in with her. So,
Yeah. I feel like this is
okay.
another Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but
Ben
reversed.
Vereen situation, Steve.
Yeah, but it's the mom in this instance, man. And now Kelly, he wants Tracy to come back. He wants to make good. He wants to do whatever it takes to get rid of this hex, this voodoo. And he offers her $50. He gives her the $50 and she just gives him some cream. And he's like, What is this? She says it's hex remover. Hex remover? It smells like foot cream.
It'll remove the hex. I like the try to negotiate he does at the beginning though, where he's like, "Man, I got $7 as a firecracker." He's like going through his pockets.
What do you have firecrackers? Why?
So she's like, the curse is gonna get lifted. Here's the curse cream. I'm gonna go on my way. So curse is off, Steve. He's got to apply that ointment a couple times a day. Couple of the curse will be gone in a couple days.
It wasn't a curse. She tells him that. Like I was just mad. You idiot. There was no voodoo.
But this cream's gonna take care of it, right? Yeah, whatever, man.
Sure.
I gotta go. I gotta go buy an eighth with this. So then we cut to a party because TK's throwing a little party with some people to celebrate the fact he's going to be moving. He's going back with his mom.
Yeah.
So, the party's popping. Jerry and Robert are like, kind of talking in the sidelines. They're like, man, where's TK's mom at? Where's she at? And, everybody's the party's sort of stopping. It's over. Mom's still not around. So Nick, as the party's wrapping up, he gives TK a little gift of some of his lucky socks, which is disgusting. They clearly reek. And that's kind of weird, Nick, but whatever. It's a nice gesture.
Socks, yeah.
So TK, he's getting all that love in from the family. He's getting all the goodbyes in before he leaves, right? Because he's expecting his mom to show up, and he even makes an excuse because I think they're like, "Where's your mom at? She was supposed to be." And he's like, she doesn't like to be around all these people and stuff. She gets nervous. Yeah. I haven't been saying nice stuff, so they're expecting her to show up. He gets all the goodbyes in. Nick gives him the socks. Zarya even says she'll miss him. Robert gives him a hug, tells him to work on the jump shot. Seems to be all wrapping up. He's about to be on his way, but
they all go to bed, and then time passes. They come down, and TK's still waiting, just looking pathetic, looking so sad. So sad.
It's like a kid waiting for somebody like their dad at the soccer practice. He's like, I don't know where she's at. Called her, she ain't responding. She ain't here. But then, God damn it, TK's mom shows up, and she had to stop it out. She knew the party was happening, but she had a couple of stops she had to make because there's a couple of happy hours. And she comes in sauce, Steve. She's tossed. She's
$3 wells. Yeah, man.
She had those dollar margaritas. And turns out, seems like maybe all that work she's been doing has just been on a bar tab and not on her habits because she's fucked up, Steve.
Latoya, that's her name, by the way. It's like Norm when she goes into the bar. Latoya,
girl, two for us. But she's kind of saucy too, Steve. She's a little belligerent. She's an angry drunk. And Jerry's like, do you even know what it's like to be a good mother? And she's like, I know, he's in the other room, ain't he? And she's like, all right.
Look, but she tells him, like, it's not fair to TK for you to walk him down this road again. And, TK, he's out. Like, I think he's supposed to be making her some coffee to sober her up. And, they're having a heart-to-heart, Jerry and Latoya, man. And it's just like, Latoya finally comes to, and she realizes that it's best for her to step away than to hurt her son again. And TK, he wants some resolution because that's not it. That's not the answer for him. He's saying like, can we just work through this together? That doesn't mean you have to just completely walk out of my life. And it's like, well, son, one day at a time, one day at a time. We never see Latoya again.
Yeah, right. But she says all the right things here because she's like, he's like, so I'm not gonna get to live with you, huh? And she's like, nah, bud, but I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do everything I can to get better because now I know this guy. I know the guy you are, and I know how cool you are. So I promise I'm gonna do everything I can to get over this so we can have a relationship. So she says the right stuff, Steve, but TK's in the right spot, you know.
Stay
Um,
where you're at.
yeah, and even he shows again how good of a dude he is because he's gotten this horrible, disappointing news. He's got to have to deal with sort of this bullshit that his mom's been putting him through his whole life. But even with that, while they're having this private conversation, she's like, I got to go. And he's like, look, you're in no place to travel here. So I'm going to go figure this out for you. He goes, talks to Robert, and he's like, look, my mom's not really in the position to be traveling and stuff. So and Robert stops him there. He's like, look, of course, she can stay on the couch. She can stay here, sober up and then be on her way. So
Yeah.
TK is, we see an episode where he kind of veers off a little bit, but this is a good kid. TK is a stand up dude. And he even gets his mom a place to stay. Seems like maybe they're going to have a relationship. But as Steve says, maybe she pulled a Van Vereen and just
Yeah.
kept on trucking, Steve.
Yeah, fell off that wagon, man. And shout out to Bernadette Stanis. That's who plays Latoya on this. She's mostly known as Thelma from Good Times. She plays the daughter slash sister Thelma, and I feel like she is Pam Grier level. If you look at her in the '70s, man, because she's one of those dancers. And I always say
Okay.
dancers, they stay in great shape, man. And Bernadette Stanis is at this point 70 years old. She has daughters and I believe granddaughters, and man, what a beautiful well to flow out of because I follow her on Instagram and fuck
Okay.
Mary Kill. Fuck Mary Kill. We
Well,
still here today.
Bernadette, I love it. I love to hear that. Somebody keeping it
Yeah.
together and not falling apart. And also, apparently, a great actress because here she's playing kind of a scumbag. I don't know if the drunk part was great, as she's
Yeah.
pretty over the top, but I dug it. And this Parenthood show really is showing me this was something I should like. I didn't watch, but I missed out on some because it's a really good show. It's funny. There's a lot of funny parts of it too. This Kelly character, I can't wait to cover it more because I love that character. That actor is hilarious.
Yeah, and this is the last season. We might be able to cover the series finale, man. Kelly, I think he either joined the season before or this season as Robert's brother. But hey, TK's got two mothers now. Good for you, TK.
He's gonna
Kind of sort.
just stay away from them guns, TK. Stay away
Yeah,
from them
man.
guns, bud.
Yeah. Tyrese's gang, they're down the block, man. Go walk this way. But also in 1999, WWF is airing King of the Ring 99 from the Greensboro Coliseum from Greensboro, North Carolina. And man, even though this is smack dab in the Attitude Era, this King of the Ring was not that great. I gotta say, man, this is a year after, in my opinion, uh, the King of the Ring with the greatest match ever. This is a year after the Mankind Undertaker match in '98, and I thought we would be able to cover that, but because of leap years and leap days, we're now in '99, and this is the one where Billy Badass Gunn, he is the King of the Ring, and I don't like the breaking up of the band. Badass, he has these heel sensibilities now. Road Dog, he's still a fan favorite. X-Pac, the people are still behind him. And it's actually X-Pac who gets defeated by Badass Billy Gunn in the final round. Another appreciation post for Sean Waltman because he is legitimately hurt from the first round, from the first match. You could tell his neck is just jacked up, man. But because he's a professional and the kind of stuff that wrestlers put themselves through, he made it through his first match. Then he had another match. I can't remember what the order was, man, but You know, he put on some decent matches before he even got to Billy Gunn. And, you know, they didn't even give a coronation for this King of the Ring. I don't know if they just did away with it.
They're
It's
like,
just like, oh
ass man, you're king of the ring. Bye.
yeah. And this is another like that song I never cared for. I like Billy Gunn, but I'm a nice man. I can lick them. I can eat them. I can chew them. I can do what all the things you can do to an ass.
I was I always just wondered, like, the guy who sang is like, that's got to be disappointing that that's the song your voice gets put onto, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's a memorable song, obviously, because it just starts off with "I'm an ass man." Bam, bam. I mean, I remember that part of it. I don't remember eat it, stick it, lick it. I don't remember any of that, but
Yeah, maybe they should have. It would have worked better. But you know, Big Show, he had a match against Kane, and this bothers me about Big Show. You are a legend in your own right. You are Captain Insano. Love some Paul White, but those two braids, I did not like. Like I never liked. What are you doing with those two braids? Titty
yeah.
two braids? Why?
Yeah, I don't get it. I didn't remember it till you just called it out, but it's not a good look. You don't need that.
Is this to try to differentiate himself from the giant? They took away the one strap. They put him in like the just the onesie. And like maybe I don't know, man, but I hate that for you, Paul White.
Somebody
Don't
talked
ever
them
go back.
into it. Somebody's like, dude, you look great in braids, dude.
Have two of them, one underneath the other. That'll be your thing. We'll put it on all the little plush styles and the action figures. And the main event was Stone Cold. It was a handicap ladder match against Shane and Vince.
I
And
love
man,
that.
I love this too, man, because Shane is good at being a heel and he plays that weaselly Nepo villain like to the fullest in this pay-per-view. He's got his Green Street posse with him, or the Mean Street posse, and he was initially going to skip out on it, but what's his name? Shawn Michaels, he's the commissioner still, and he's basically saying, like, man, where's Shane? Where's Shane? They find him, they cut to the back, and he's just watching everything with his boys in the locker room. He's like, yeah, yeah, where's this? And then they note it, we're live. Oh, man, we gotta go out there. And he's doing his little Shane stuff, man. He's rocking his McMahon 316. Like just the cockiness, the arrogance of Shane in this, man. I always applaud that. And also the championship match was it wasn't even the main event, was The Rock versus The Undertaker. Undertaker, he's the champ right now. And I'm a fan of both. I'm sure you're a fan of both. But this is one of those things where the sums were greater, or the parts were greater than the sum. I just never remember them having great chemistry. And in this match, it was a snoozer, man, even for The Rock and Taker.
Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like the names, it's like, yeah, this is gonna be great, and it's just like, this is a snooze fest.
Yeah, man. Callbacks, honorable mentions, or takeaways?
I mean, I'm just gonna honorably mention Nick Cage one more time, because I guess, like, for me, I wouldn't cement him as an action star, even though he should, because in the '90s he was really killing that game. But
Yeah.
man, the performances you get out of that guy, you really get a maximum amount of value out of that actor, because he will, him in Face Off, Steve. First 5 minutes of the movie, he's a priest headbanging, feeling on asses, and talking shit about God. And it's all in that face he makes when he's like, does that crazy, yeah, dude. You can not have audio, and that just sticks with you. It just as a legend. So Nick
Very,
Cage, dude, you're
yeah.
weird. You're amazing, and you're profoundly a good actor. So even in movies that most people, I don't know how people feel about Face Off. Uh, I love it. It's a legendary '90s action movie.
Man, if they don't like Face Off, F they feelings, man. Shout out to Nikki Coppola. And I would actually have him above Bruce Willis, but that's just me.
I could see that. I just feel like Bruce Willis, his top echelon action movies, which obviously is going to be the Die Hard franchise, is just so much more memorable. And there was other movies that he did a lot of action movies in the night. Last Boy Scout, freaking, we could keep
Yeah,
going, but
it's true.
he's I don't know. Maybe I have to re-examine that because now that I'm thinking about it, Steve, you might be lawyering me out of my decision earlier. So I'm going to think about it. I'll get back to you on that.
I mean, he's top 5 for me, Bruce Willie. But you did mention Michael Jai White, and that's got me considered because, man, we didn't even talk about Black Dynamite. Like, if you just go off of 90 stuff, you got Spawn. He was Mike Tyson. He was in the Expendables and stuff. But man, Black Dynamite was awesome. But yeah, man, I want to give a shout out to Tyrone Burton, aka TK from Parenthood. He's a pastor now, and he has an online church that you can attend. He leaves clips, he leaves videos, and he'll react to stuff. He's responsive.
TK, what's his real name?
Tyrone Burton, man. He's turned his life to the Lord.
Father Burton would love that. See, even again, life imitating or art imitating life, what was one way or the other, this guy is just a solid dude, even in real life. I love that.
Got his heart in the right place, man. So shout out to that. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Please tell your sister, I wish you was 6 feet under. I wish it was asunder, struck by thunder.
Damn. Yes. That's better than I can do. So
but yeah, also check out Food Show Fanatics and our guy Clark the Shark, man. Much props to him for Made in Philadelphia. But this is Steve G and Mad G with
Happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the black kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? The 90s.